You know that spicy kick you get from ginger? Well, turns out there's so much more to it than just flavor. We're gonna peel back the layers on this amazing root and uncover some really cool science hiding inside. So let's get into it.
Seriously, have you ever stopped to think about it? When you get that warm, kind of sharp taste from ginger, what's actually going on? That simple question is going to take us on a deep dive into some fascinating chemistry.
Because that kick isn't just a taste, it's a signal that you're dealing with a serious chemical powerhouse. Ginger is absolutely loaded with compounds that talk to our bodies in some pretty amazing ways. And today, we're going to break it all down.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with what ginger's most famous for, then we'll look at how it helps with soreness. After that, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of what's inside the root, uncover its big anti-inflammatory secret, see how it can wake up your immune system, and wrap up with how to use it the right way.
Okay, first things first. You know how people always say to have some ginger when your stomach feels off? Well, there's a really good reason for that. Let's start with its most well-known, scientifically proven superpower, calming nausea.
And the science on this is, well, it's really solid. A huge meta-analysis, that's where they combined the results of a bunch of different studies, found something pretty incredible. They saw a 5-fold greater chance of improvement in nausea for women in early pregnancy who took ginger. I mean, 5 times. That's not a small difference. That's a huge, measurable impact.
And look, this isn't some fringe idea we're talking about. The evidence is so strong that it's gone completely mainstream. We're talking about the American Academy of Obstetrics and Gynecology giving it a thumbs up as a totally acceptable non-pharmaceutical remedy. When an organization like that gets on board, you know the science is for real.
Okay, so ginger is a champ for upset stomachs, we've got that down. But its resume is way longer than that. Now let's shift gears and look at how it can help out with sore muscles and pain.
Check this out. In one really cool study, scientists had people do some tough exercises to make their muscles sore. You know the feeling. The folks who took about 2 grams of ginger every day, and it didn't matter if it was raw or cooked, they felt about a 25% drop in muscle pain after 11 days. That's compared to the group that got a placebo. So the bottom line, a little bit of ginger each day can actually make a noticeable dent in that post-gym ache.
So what's the deal? How can one little root be good for your stomach and your sore biceps? Well, it all comes down to chemistry. It's time to go inside this wonder root and meet the molecules that are doing all the heavy lifting.
All right, let's meet the all-star team. First up, you've got gingerols. They're the main compound in fresh ginger, the ones that give it that classic spicy kick. But then, if you dry the gingerols turn into something called shogols, which are even more powerful. And that's not all. You've also got pyridols and zingerone in the mix, adding their own antioxidant properties. So you see, it's not just one magic ingredient, it's a whole crew of compounds working in harmony.
Okay, pay attention, because this next part is the real secret sauce. This is what makes ginger so special, what sets it apart from a lot of the pain relievers you just grab off the shelf. It explains how it can be so powerful, but also so gentle on your system.
So to really get what ginger does, we first have to understand how inflammation even works in our bodies. Think of it like this. There are 2 main highways that inflammation can travel down. One is called the COX pathway, and the other is the LOX pathway.
And here it is. This is the big aha moment. Your typical pain relievers, NSAIDs like ibuprofen, they only block one of those highways, the COX pathway. Well, what happens then? You get a big traffic jam, and all those inflammatory molecules get rerouted onto the other highway, the LOX pathway. And that can cause problems like irritating your stomach. But ginger is way smarter. It works on both highways at the same time. It's like a brilliant traffic controller, calming things down everywhere. And that dual action approach is exactly why it can fight inflammation so well, but without tearing up your stomach.
And we can actually see this happening all the way down at the genetic level. There was a lab study on human joint cells where scientists basically fired up inflammation on purpose. But then they added some ginger extract, and what happened was pretty amazing. The ginger literally told the inflammatory genes to quiet down. It was calming the entire response right at the source code, so to speak.
All right, now for something that's really on the cutting edge. We've covered nausea, we've covered inflammation, but get this. Some of the latest research is showing that the spiciness of ginger might be sending a direct message to our immune system, kind of putting it on standby, ready to go.
I know, it sounds a little bit like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Can that spicy feeling actually beef up your immune system? Well, believe it or not, the science says, yeah, it can. And the whole thing hinges on one tiny little sensor on our cells.
That sensor is called TRPV1. Try saying that 3 times fast. Just think of it as a little detector. It's the same receptor that screams, ouch, hot, when you touch a hot pan. But what's super cool is that it also picks up on spicy compounds, like the ones in ginger. And here's the kicker. These little detectors aren't just on your tongue. They're sitting right on the surface of your white blood cells, the frontline soldiers of your immune system.
So here's the play-by-play. You drink some ginger tea. That main spicy compound, it's called 6-gingerol, gets into your blood. Now, even a tiny amount is enough to go and knock on the door of those TRPV1 receptors on your white blood cells. It doesn't trigger a full-blown freakout or cause inflammation. Instead, it's more like a drill sergeant blowing a whistle. It puts those immune cells on high alert, making them more ready and responsive to fight off any real threats.
Okay, so the science is clearly awesome. But what does this all mean for you and me? How do we actually use this stuff? Let's wrap things up with some practical, no-nonsense advice on how to bring ginger into your life the smart and safe way.
First off, pretty much all the experts agree it's best to get your ginger from actual food. Fresh root, powder, teas, instead of supplements, which can be a bit of a wild west. A good rule of thumb is that up to about 4 grams a day is considered totally safe. If you start pushing past 6 grams, you might run into some heartburn. Now, a couple of really important heads-ups. If you're on blood thinners like warfarin, you need to be cautious. And if you have diabetes, it's a good idea to chat with your doctor first, because ginger can potentially affect your blood sugar. But here's the great part. You've got tons of options. It doesn't matter if you love that sharp bite of fresh ginger, the ease of using powder, or even that pickled ginger you get with your sushi. In any of those forms, you're still getting all those good-for-you bioactive compounds. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, if this one common root that's in kitchens everywhere holds this much incredible science, it just makes you wonder what other secrets are hiding in plain sight on your spice rack.